So, do you struggle with getting out of breath shortly after starting your run? Or do you struggle pacing yourself when you first go out? And are you feeling like you're not really getting anywhere because you're getting really tired too soon? So in this video I'm going to discuss 5 tips which will almost certainly help you and have definitely helped me improve my running and help me get better in the long term without getting too tired too soon. Tip number 1 for improving your stamina is going to be eat a big or decent sized meal around an hour and a half to 2 hours before you start your run, and one which isn't too close to your workout so you don't get a stitch. Or if you didn't have time to eat 2 hours before, for example, or if you're getting up early in the morning like I do, is have a small snack around 30 to 45 minutes before, just to give you a little bit of energy. So that means you're not going to get a stitch from having a big meal too soon, but you're still going to have that energy to complete the run. So if you're having a decent sized meal around an hour and a half to 2 hours before, I'd recommend something which is quite high in carbs, moderate fats and relatively low in protein. To be honest, protein's essential for recovery, but for the meals we're having before a run, we want something which is going to give us, like I said, that energy to complete the whole thing, especially if you're doing a long run, for example, anything over an hour. You need those energy sources which is going to get you through it all. So what I'd recommend is something like pasta, rice, potatoes. These are foods which are also going to help you feel full and which, when you're doing the run, should actually last throughout the whole thing, so you're actually going to complete it. So this is going to reduce the risk that you're actually going to fatigue and feel really tired throughout the run, because you've got those energy reserves to get you through the full thing, whether it's a long, easy run or whether it is intervals, really sharp, short and fast-paced ones. For example, hill sprints, which we all know are brutal. So tip number 2 for improving your stamina is going to be warming up before you start. I know, it sounds cliche again. So I was always told when I was a kid at school, make sure you're doing some warm-ups before, doing some stretches, mobility, whatever it is. And let's be honest, when we get to the run itself, we need to motivate ourselves to just do that and get out the door. Never mind doing some warm-ups as well, or spending too long doing it. It's too much out of our day to spend doing it. So what I'd recommend is setting just around 5 minutes. That's what I do. I'll normally just do some leg swings, get the hips, the adductors, the glutes warmed up, calf stretches, especially if you're going to be doing those long runs again, or actually any run for that matter. Stretch your calves, do some mobility to warm the glutes and hamstrings and the hips up, just to make sure all those muscles which we're going to be working are firing and reduce that risk of injury. And another main reason for warming up is we want to actually elevate the heart rate a little bit before we go into our main workout. So one thing I noticed as well when I first started running, go out the door, let's just say I had a half an hour run plan. I'd go straight out the door, do the half an hour run without any warm up and without elevating the heart rate. And what you have probably found, just like I did, is the first 5 to 10 minutes feel horrible, because your heart rate's gone from your resting heart rate, might be around 50 to 70, somewhere around there, to all of a sudden being up to 150, 160. And it makes you feel pretty horrible, to say the least, because your body hasn't had time to adapt, which is going to help your breathing and help you settle into the run itself and make it a lot more enjoyable, if I'm totally honest. To sum up, tip number 2, the warm-up, a few mobility exercises, stretching out of the calves and any other muscles which feel tight, and do a little warm-up lap of your straight, or even just a straight, somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes. It's going to elevate your heart rate a little bit, so then you're settled into the run, so you don't feel horrible when you start, and it's actually going to help you get throughout the whole thing. So tip number 3, this is probably the most important tip out of them all. This is the one which has helped me the most out of everything, ever since I started running, and that is to slow down. But to run faster in the long run, if you've got a race for example, you need to run slower in training. Sounds slightly counterproductive and slightly contradictory, but trust me, running slower is going to help you massively in your consistency, your frequency and your progress. What I recommend is staying at a pace which is going to be comfortable, which you can sustain throughout your whole run, throughout your whole workout. And a good little indicator to how slow you should be running is you should actually be able to hold a conversation while you're doing it. So if you're out with a friend, for example, and you can't hold a conversation with them, you're going too fast. Unless you're doing a specific interval workout, obviously, where you need to be doing sprints. Your long, easier runs should be at a pace where you can hold a conversation, and one which you can sustain throughout, where your heart rate isn't elevated too much. So the method I follow is the Maffetone method. So I'm going to put this on the screen now, and this is one which has helped me, like I said, massively. This has really helped me keep my heart rate relatively low, and one which has helped me get through all my easy runs without feeling really tired and really horrible, if I'm totally honest. I don't end each run feeling like I'm on death's door and I just want to, never run again. So the Maffetone method was created by Phil Maffetone. The Maffetone method is a style of training that focuses exclusively on aerobic running, using a heart rate formula of 180 minus your age, plus several corrections for injury, fitness level, health, etc. You come up with an aerobic maximum heart rate. So for me, I am 24 years old, so that means using the Maffetone method, I shouldn't really be going above 156 BPM, beats per minute, when I'm doing my easy runs. So what I do is I actually try and stay in around the 140 to 150 zone. So sometimes I will go up to those, 156, but the 156 BPM for me personally will be my heart rate ceiling for around 80% of my runs. So I'm keeping that pace. As soon as my heart rate goes above that 156, I will slow it right down. And what you're going to notice is that, especially if you're running on a windy day and running into a headwind or running up a steep hill, naturally your heart rate's going to elevate. So what you're going to need to do, and what you're going to notice, is you're going to have to slow your pace down to stay under this ceiling. But like I said, I really would recommend researching this method a little bit more. It's massively helped me reduce my risk of injury over the time, because to be honest, I've been running for 7 to 8 months, around somewhere between 4 to 6 times a week, and touch wood, I haven't really got many injuries. I've had a few little niggles, little bits of tightness, but none which has really affected me that much to the point where I've had to not run for a good few weeks. So Maffetone method, 180 BPM minus your age. So if you're 30, obviously your ceiling will be 150, if you're 40, your ceiling will be 140, so on and so forth. Tip number 4 is going to be build your mileage up over time. I think we're all guilty of doing this. We say we're going to go straight into doing 4 days of running from absolutely nothing. And I don't know about you, but this is not ideal. You're going to go from your base level of fitness, where you haven't maybe been running that much at all of a sudden to upping your volume, upping your frequency to 4 or 5 days a week. And we're deluded to think that our body's going to be able to handle that over a long period of time. What we need to do is slowly start to build the frequency up, build the volume up, and that is how we're going to progress without getting injuries. Because like anything, we're going to feel motivated for a few weeks, and we're going to hit it really hard, and then all of a sudden we're going to get a little injury, and then we don't run again for like 6 to 12 months. So building your mileage up from the bottom up is going to help you to not overtrain and again reduce the risk of injury. You'll probably notice that there's a common theme in this video, is if we're reducing the risk of injury, our motivation is going to stay relatively high, because we're going to feel fresh for each run and we're going to be more motivated to actually do it. So for example, if you're a complete beginner and you really don't rate yourself at running at all, just start it even just once or twice per week, where you're staying at a low heart rate. As we discussed in the last tip, in tip number 3, work out your ceiling, your BPM ceiling. So we're running at a relatively easy pace, once or twice per week. Even if you just start out at 15 to 20 minutes, keeping your heart rate relatively low, so you're not exerting yourself too much, so you're not getting too tired too soon. And that way, as the weeks go on, if you're feeling good, if you're not getting many niggles or injuries, that means we can up our frequency and up our volume over time, and then you're going to be able to stick to it. And again, that's what we want, consistency over time. You're going to get results. So I started out at around 10 to 15 miles per week, and then I ended up getting up to around 35 to 45 miles per week, but this was all done over around 12 weeks. So I didn't go straight into 30 miles a week and then up it to 60 miles within 2 or 3 weeks. I progressively built it up, upped it by around 10 to 15% per week of my weekly mileage. Again, it's all relative to the person. If you're a really good runner anyway, obviously you can start at the higher end of the spectrum. But if you're a complete beginner, again, you're going to be deluded to think that you're going to go straight into those high mileage weeks straight away. Start low, don't go in full guns blazing, and you'll see results over time. But tip number 5 is going to be stay consistent with a good routine and plan. Sounds a little bit cliche, but a really good training plan is massive. Again, I was guilty of this. I thought I could just go out for runs whenever I had time, and again, it didn't really work because I didn't have a set structured plan to follow, which was not even tailored to me, but one which is just structured, which is going to help build that frequency and volume as the weeks go on, which is linking back to tip number 4. So having a routine which sticks around your work and any other hobbies you've got is going to massively help you adhere to running in the long run. At the end of the day, the more we enjoy something, the more we're going to do it. If you're going out on a run and you hate it because you're trying to run too fast, you're getting out of breath too soon, you're not going to keep it up for a very long time. I mean, if you follow a routine which you genuinely enjoy and you start seeing results, you're going to adhere to it for a longer period of time. It's like anything. If you're doing a weight training program, if you like doing it, you enjoy the lifts, deadlift, squats for example, you're going to keep doing it because you enjoy performing the exercises. Same in regards to running. Find a training program which is suited to you and one which doesn't throw you in at the deep end too soon. So those are my 5 tips to help build your stamina, whether you're a beginner, intermediate or advanced. To recap the 5 tips, tip number 1, make sure you have some food in your stomach to help you get through the run. Tip number 2, do some mobility and some warming up. Tip number 3 is run slower, probably one of the most key tips. Tip number 4 is build your mileage up over time. And tip number 5 is get a sustainable program which works for you. All that being said, if you want some help with your running or any fitness goals, I am a personal trainer and a coach. I have been for the last 5.5 to 6 years. Message me, I'll happily reply. Email me, drop me a message on Instagram. Here's my link to follow, and thank you for watching.